All right, let's jump right into Lesson 4, Datums and the Datum Reference Frame. Today we're tackling a pretty wild paradox that sits right at the heart of engineering and manufacturing.
You see, every single dimensional inspection, literally every quality check you run on a part, requires a theoretical, absolutely perfect plane to measure from. But here's the catch. That perfect plane? It doesn't actually exist anywhere on a real manufactured part. Not on the smoothest milled surface, not on the most precisely turned cylinder. So let me ask you this. If that perfect theoretical plane doesn't exist, what is a machinist actually touching when they set up their indicators to measure from, say, Datum A? If you zoom in with a microscope, that flat line you see on a blueprint is actually a jagged mountain range of microscopic peaks and valleys. So we've got to solve this core mystery. What exactly are we measuring against out there in the real world?
Okay, let's look at a classic setup. We've got the part's actual physical surface on one side and a heavy, precision-ground granite surface plate that the part is sitting on the other. I want you to guess for a second, which one of these is the actual datum? Is it the part itself, or is it that granite plate underneath it? Take a guess. Well, if you guess the part, you're wrong. And if you guess the granite plate, you're actually also wrong. Believe it or not, this is the exact concept that most engineers and honestly, even seasoned machinists get wrong.
To understand why, we have to look at the strict definitions from the ASME Y14.5 standard. A datum is defined as a theoretically exact point axis or plane. It's derived from what the standard calls a true geometric counterpart. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the datum is perfect by definition. Zero variation, zero surface roughness, zero form error. Because it's so perfect, it's basically a ghost. It only exists in theory, in the math, and in your CAD model. It literally does not exist on your physical part.
Now, what you're actually holding in your hand, or what the machinist has clamped in the vise, is the datum feature. The datum feature is the actual physical feature on the part itself, like a face, a hole, or a slot, that's identified by that little datum symbol on the drawing. And unlike our perfect theoretical ghost datum, the datum feature is highly imperfect. It's bumpy, it might be slightly warped, maybe a bit tapered, but it's the real-world surface that we have to use to try and establish our perfect datum. So how do we bring that ghost into the physical world? Well, this is the answer to our trick question from earlier. That granite surface plate, or a precision gauge pin, or a machine chuck, those are datum feature simulators. They're the physical tooling elements that contact your bumpy datum feature to simulate the perfect theoretical datum. They act as the physical embodiment of that true geometric counterpart. Now, they aren't perfectly flawless, obviously, but they're of such incredibly high quality that the planes or axis derived from them act as our datums during manufacturing and inspection.
So, here's the real kicker. Just because you slap a datum label on a drawing feature does not magically make it flat or perfectly round. Because datum features are real, physical, and imperfect, the ASME standard explicitly states they must be controlled themselves. Think about it. If you're going to anchor your entire measurement system to a surface, that surface needs a control, like a flatness tolerance or a tightly controlled size dimension so that it actually sits on the datum feature simulator reliably without just rocking wildly back and forth.
And that brings us to how we actually lock a part down for measurement, using what's known as the 3-2-1 point contact rule. To fully stabilize an object, we specify datums in a very strict order of precedence. Step 1 is the primary datum, which requires a minimum of 3 points of contact, kind of like a three-legged stool, which, as you know, never wobbles. Step 2 is the secondary datum, requiring a minimum of 2 points of contact. And finally, step 3 is the tertiary datum, requiring just 1 minimum point of contact. This exact step-by-step sequence is how we build our datum reference frame.
So let's test your intuition on how this physical constraint actually works in practice. Quick quiz. Imagine you take a part and you just simply rest its bottom face onto a flat granite surface plate. So you've applied a primary planar datum. How many degrees of freedom do you think remain? Like, how many ways can that part still move? Think about it for a second before we start our countdown.
Okay, to answer that, we actually have to start at the maximum. Before any datums are applied, a rigid body floating freely in 3D space starts with exactly 6 degrees of freedom. 6 independent ways it can potentially move around.
Let's break this down really quick. Those 6 movements are basically 3 translations and 3 rotations. The part can translate, which just means slide, back and forth along the x-axis, the y-axis, or the z-axis. And it can also rotate or tilt around the x-axis, around the y-axis, and around the z-axis. Picture a spaceship floating totally untethered in outer space.
To inspect a part accurately, we have to lock down all 6 of these movements relative to our measurement equipment.
So, jumping back to our quiz. When you place that part down onto the primary planar datum, the surface plate, making contact at those 3 minimum high points, you instantly lock down 3 degrees of freedom. The part can no longer translate down through the solid plate, right? And it can no longer tilt or rotate in the 2 directions against that flat plate. That leaves us with 3 degrees of freedom remaining. The part can still slide around flat on the plate in X and Y, and it can still spin around like a top.
Next, we push the part up against a second block, our secondary datum simulator, which has to be perfectly perpendicular to the primary. This makes contact at a minimum of 2 points. By doing this, we stop it from sliding in one of those directions, and we stop it from spinning. Boom! We've just locked down 2 more degrees of freedom. We are now left with just 1 single degree of freedom. The part can only slide back and forth along that secondary block.
Finally, we slide the part until it bumps against a third block, the tertiary datum feature simulator. This makes that final 1 minimum point of contact. It stops the part from sliding in that last remaining direction. And there it is. We've removed the final degree of freedom. The counter hits 0, the part is perfectly and immovably secured in the datum reference frame, and our X, Y, and Z coordinate system is completely locked in for inspection.
Now this brings up a massive, absolutely crucial wake-up call for anyone designing or inspecting parts. Datum order isn't just some paperwork formality. If you have a feature control frame that says datums A, B, and C, and you decide to just casually swap it to B, A, C on the machine, you haven't just rearranged letters. You have fundamentally shifted how those degrees of freedom are constrained. You're changing which surface gets 3 points of contact versus 2 points. And because real parts aren't perfectly square, swapping datums literally tilts the part differently in the inspection fixture. That means your entire tolerance zone moves in physical space. No way around it.
And this brilliantly illustrates the rules right out of our reference document. If you look at the feature control frame structure, you'll see the 4th compartment lists the datums. The order they're read, strictly left to right, is known as datum precedence. It's an absolute rigid set of instructions for the inspector on exactly the sequence to strip away those 6 degrees of freedom. Primary first, secondary next, tertiary last. It dictates exactly how the part meets the gauge.
So now that we've successfully built our 6 degree of freedom anchor, the datum reference frame, the obvious question is, how do we actually start applying geometric tolerances relative to it? Well, we're going to tackle exactly that in Lesson 5 of this explainer, where we dive into orientation tolerances, things like perpendicularity, angularity, and parallelism. These are the very first symbols that absolutely require this exact framework to function. But hey, before you jump to that next lesson, ask yourself this. Look at the blueprints on your desk right now. Do those datum features actually have tolerances controlling their own form? Or are you just assuming they're perfect ghosts? Definitely something to think about. I'll catch you in the next one.